So do you read the cover letters, Gabby? Like real talk?
The other thing that we need to talk about, it's do not steal art.
Oh, yeah.
Well, for me, my big pet peeve on that one is they add me and then they're like, hey, I just applied to like, let's say, software engineer. Software engineer. Let's think about this, okay?
There's because it's solely true. We do want to make this experience for you guys, like, you know, applying and going through the interview process. We want it to be as seamless as possible. We want you to have a really good experience across the board. But there are so many people that I've talked to, who don't experience that. They're like, I hate recruiters. They're like, I had the worst experience with recruiters.
They do. I've seen your other two and they're really good.
Thank you. So nice. All right. Well, thanks for coming on. I appreciate you very much. And so basically, can you just tell us who you are and what you do?
Yes. So my name is Gabby Langley and I am a recruiting coordinator for PlayStation.
Awesome. There you go. I wanted to have you on because I wanted to have a conversation about some of the things that we've learned working and recruiting at PlayStation. And maybe, if there's some like tips or anything that we could give to people who are trying to get into the game industry, because we've worked with multiple teams. And maybe there's some little tidbits that we could give out to those folks who are trying to get in the game. And I will say this, since we both work at PlayStation, and I have to give this disclaimer to everyone. So views and opinions expressed in this podcast and are our own, and do not represent that of our places of work. So this is just based on our personal experiences working and recruiting at PlayStation. And obviously take this stuff with a grain of salt, because a lot of the advice and tips and stuff we're going to give are they're relative to the studio that you're applying to and to the teams that you're applying to. It's going to vary based on those different factors. So for those of you out there listening to this, please keep that in mind. Okay, cool. So Gabby, where are you from?
Well, I was born in Costa Rica, so San Jose, Costa Rica, which is our capital. But I was raised in the South. I was raised in Atlanta, and that's how I finished learning my English. I went to high school there. I met my high school sweetheart, and now we live in San Diego, California.
Nice. What have you been playing lately? What games are you playing?
So I went back to play Valhalla, AC Valhalla. The first time I played it was like during pandemic when it came out, and I was about to freaking beat the game and it glitched on me and I didn't finish it. I wasn't able to finish the main story quest. So I went back and I'm replaying it, and that's what I've been doing for the last couple of like months, weeks. So it's still kind of glitchy.
Is it?
I have not learned. Yeah, it's still kind of glitchy. Yesterday, for example, I was trying to beat this legendary guy, or like this, like it's like an animal you're trying to get for your long house. You can like cut the head, basically put it on the wall type of thing. Mm-hmm. And I was about to beat him. I even killed him, and then this wolf came out of nowhere and killed me.
Oh shit!
Damn it! I was so mad. So I should have got out of the place where it's like these like arenas or something, and then you get out, and obviously just you can just kind of dip and like, okay, you're great, you get the skill points, you get your animal, you get the hell out, right? But no, I paused it because I was like, oh my god, I beat him, and then I press play, and then the wolf comes out of nowhere and he kills me, and I was like, that's okay.
That's whack. Yeah, that's okay. That's be frustrating. I don't know how you I'm a pretty bad rage quitter. Oh, there we go. You're frozen. Oh, there we go.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm a pretty bad rage quitter. Like, I've been playing aside from, so I just finished like I was telling you earlier, I just finished Uncharted Lost Legacy. and that's my third playthrough. I played it on the PS4, and I loved it. It was beautiful. And I got the Uncharted collection, like the new upgraded for the PS5. Yeah, and so I wanted to try out. So I was like, let me just see, because I loved Lost Legacy. I love the fact that there are two, females working together, females of color who are playing as protagonists in this game, and I never seen that before. And I tried to remember, like in other games, if I'd seen that, and I haven't. So I was like, this is dope. And I was like, this is dope. I have to play this. And so this last playthrough was really fun. It looks beautiful, like always. There's just some slight differences, but still it was like a little buggy. So I was kind of disappointed about that. But it was still fun. It was still a lot of fun. I took so many screenshots because I was recording my gameplay, because just in case I could use it for, some kind of content for this channel. I was just recording my gameplay. No audio or camera or anything, just straight up gameplay. And I in the middle of it, I was taking all these photos and stuff and these screenshots. It's so
I love
nice.
it.
Yeah.
That game was so good. I have not played it since it came out, but I agree with you. It was like two women of color. It was so different. And just to be able to play those characters, and they're freaking badasses, okay? I love that.
It was dope. It was dope, because you'd have like the, during some of the fighting sequences, like we're both fighting together.
Yes.
That was pretty dope. And then something I didn't pay attention to until kind of sad, this playthrough, I realized that Chloe is of Indian descent.
Yeah.
And
that's true.
I was like, oh, this is crazy. So it means a lot to her to go through with this particular job. Well, it doesn't in the beginning, and obviously everyone who's played it, realizes that it has a lot of more meaning towards the end of the story. But
it does.
Yeah, it's dope. How'd you end up coming into games?
So no, I didn't know that was an option. So I wish that I would have gotten the opportunities that a lot of the kids are getting these days, where it's so, like, gaming is so intensified now, right? It's just in the world stage. Like, we have all these gaming companies, and we have Girls Who Code. We have all these programs, right? When I was growing up, I didn't know any of this. I just knew that people made games, but I didn't know that was an opportunity. So when I was in high school, it wasn't really brought up. Like, you went to, you had your art classes, your drama classes, but it wasn't something that I was interested in. So for me, my arts was different. I will tell you, I wanted to be a chef. So, because I love cooking, I love baking, and I wanted to, own my own restaurant at one point. And so when I went back to Costa Rica, my parents divorced. I went back to live with my mom. I got into, the office life. So from there, I get into staffing later. And then that's when I found out that you can get into games. So you can actually work at a gaming studio. So actually a couple of weeks ago, or a couple of months ago, we, something came up with like Glassdoor. I visited that account that I had, and there was a couple of companies. You can actually put your dream companies that you want to work for. And I went and I actually looked at the dream companies that I had, and it was PlayStation,
Ubisoft, yeah.
Ubisoft, and Nintendo, and I had other, and Disney.
Yeah.
So I'm really lucky that I got to, work for PlayStation. So I kind of, will tell you and how I got into that. But basically, I worked in staffing. No one really says that they want to get into recruiting. It was just kind of like I fell into it. I worked for a couple other tech companies, and then pandemic hit, and I was very just unhappy where I was at. And I think it just intensified it that we were all staying at home. We had this, unknown thing that, obviously was affecting a lot of people worldwide. And I got a little burned out from the position that I was in. And so I also developed some health issues. And so I took that into priority, and I said, what do I want to do? So I took some time off, and I traveled a little bit, just like a family vacation with my husband. And then during this time, I was actively still looking on LinkedIn. I need to find something to, I was going to give myself up to 6 months. If I don't find anything in 6 months, oh shoot, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
And so I was able to, one day I logged in, and never forget, and I saw the recruiting coordinator position opening. And I immediately screenshot it, sent it to Brandon, and I said, should I apply? And he's like, is that even a question? Is that even a question?
Yeah.
And I applied, and the rest is history. But that's how I kind of got in. And honestly, I love it. I feel like I'm with my people. I get to, show my tattoos. If I want to dye my hair purple tomorrow, they wouldn't judge me. Right. After working at a very office setting, how do you look? How do you present yourself to, going to what did you do this weekend? I just freaking played. Oh, that's awesome. What did you play? Right. I feel like if I would have said that in my previous company, they'd be like, did you go hiking? Did you go hiking?
Oh,
did you do anything else? And so, no, I love that about where we work, that I'm able to be myself. I can nerd out with my coworkers. We can talk about games. We can talk about movies, music, and we don't feel that judgment, right?
Yeah, totally.
So that's the fun answer to that.
So, I love that. No, I know that's one of the things that I tell a lot of people in my screens too, when they ask me, what's your experience been like at PlayStation? And I tell them one of the big reasons why I love it so much, and that I made the move especially, is that I felt like, even in my interviews, I felt like I could be myself.
Yeah.
Because I came from higher ed, and I had to wear a suit and tie, I'm damn near every day. If I'm recruiting and I'm traveling, I still gotta dress up, and it's just when you're dressing up and stuff like that all the time, it kind of stifles your creativity a little bit. At least that's what I thought. And also it just wasn't me. You know what I'm saying?
No.
It kind of got to me after a while, because I was in higher ed for 7 years. And I was like, man, let me just, let me try gaming. Gaming, I know, is something that I love. I always love. I'm always going to be a gamer, for life. Let me try it. And then coming in here during the interviews, and then every day just being able to talk to you, all the time, and just have fun conversations about the games we played and stuff like that. It's just it's so easy. It's a no-brainer. So so that was a big one, me being able to be myself. And if I want to, sometimes I'll, I'm a cusser. I like cussing. I don't cuss a ton, but I could let it fly without having to worry about it, as long as I'm not offending anybody. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. You don't have to worry about that. Or I think also, I've seen it in the culture there, where you go on a Friday to go pick up a package, and they're down the break room, they're playing. There's a Mario 64, not a Mario, it's a Nintendo 64, and there's 5 people playing, and I'm like, can I join? I want to join. Let me play. Or I think even the folks in the mailroom, they have Twitch playing, or they have some gameplay playing, and I think that's awesome. And even coworkers of ours, during when we're working, we could just have something up and it'd be gaming related, but at the same time, no one's really going to judge you, or your productivity. Yeah. So I really love that.
Yeah.
For sure. And they do stuff like that for us too, where we're able to sit down and, meet, who are the people making the game, and having those talks are really fun to attend.
Yeah. Those are dope.
Those are so fun, and you learn so much and appreciate the art more. And that's why another reason why I love working where we work. Mm-hmm. Is that creativity.
So as a, so how long have you been at PlayStation? Is it the same amount of time as me, right? A year?
Kind of, yeah.
Going on 2 years?
June 1st.
June is your, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm August. So
Yeah.
we're coming up on 2 years here, and I always tell people it's been almost 2 years, but it feels like 5 years.
Yeah.
But it's more in a good way, just because when we came on, it was like really busy.
It
Like
was.
we kind of had to hit the ground running, and that first year like blew by super fast. And obviously things are a little bit slower now, but my whole point of this was like, so in the amount of time that we've been here at PlayStation, we've had opportunities to work with multiple teams.
Hmm.
And for your main responsibilities, what you do, you've had opportunities to do stuff outside of your like what you would usually do as a coordinator.
Yeah.
So how has that experience been for you?
It's been great. So a little background, I've been a coordinator for almost, I want to say 7 to 8 years. It started. So when I first started, I knew that they needed help. We only had like one person in the team, or two people actually. And I started actually working in the corporate side for PlayStation. So that was a very different dynamic of what I was doing before. I worked a lot with, previous to coming to PlayStation, I worked a lot with government folks. But with working in the marketing and in sales, it's a little bit different. So it was very busy. And then last year I got to finally, move over more to the art side and the studio side. And that was extremely fun because that's what why I wanted to join in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And that, it is a different kind of beast. I would say very different. The experience has been very rewarding. I get to sit down in meetings of, folks that I see at the credits and at the end of a game.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh, I know that person, or, oh, I work with them. And so that's the cool side of it. Right. And to me, it's just, I hate saying this, but it's like, imposter syndrome, where I feel like sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I belong, right? But at the end of the day, I'm like, I feel very blessed to sit here and, get to be a part of this. And then on top of everything, it's like helping out the candidates. To me, that's like my number one priority, because they're so excited to work with us. And they're like, and even just helping them, even to set up their interview, right? To them, that's just great. They're grateful to have someone on the other side.
It means a lot.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to be able to provide that, the best candidate experience for them.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, I want them to remember, it's like, okay, Gabby, made, the process much, seamless, or she helped me out so much. And that's the rewarding part of this whole entire, position.
Mm-hmm.
To me.
So for those who aren't familiar, because to be honest with you, like before I came into games, I didn't know exactly what like the role of a coordinator is. So
Yeah.
it's initially like you as a coordinator working your scheduling for hiring teams.
Yeah.
Your scheduling.
So
right.
they're anywhere between a very simple, like 30 to 45-minute call, to like very complex interviews. So it could be in a span of, a couple of days, or, a couple of hours to a couple of days. It even could be like weeks, depending on like the hiring manager or the hiring team's like availability. Now we have the aspect of everything is being remote, which makes it a little bit easier. But before, we would do it on site. We still have some teams that do that. However, not so much on our end, but in other teams we do like bring a candidate. So like the traveling, but I had experience on both ends.
Sheesh, I remember scheduling like in-person stuff, like at university. It's challenging.
It's challenging.
Especially if they're not local.
Oh yeah. I used to, not here, but like a previous gig I had was 3 teams bringing in the same candidate. They would have an interview of like 2-day spans, but also this in this specific company, like we had like multiple buildings, so we would have shuttles pick up the candidate and drive them to like the specific building. So in court, like me building out the schedule, I would have to build like the travel time.
Yeah, it's a lot.
So I think that position gave me so much insight and experience as to me, like now what I do is like a piece of cake. So a lot of folks really,
especially working from home, right?
Yes. That was it. And then I think the most like, interviewers that I've ever scheduled, it was like between 22 to 24 people on a span of 2 days. Not here.
It's tough.
Yeah, not here at PlayStation. I think we try to keep our interview panels like very small. Some teams, of course, they have to
some teams
include some teams do, but here what I've noticed is like, okay, you have it with the hiring manager and then it goes to like the face-to-face, and it's usually like a few interviews, like maybe I wouldn't say no more than 5. That's like the max I've seen. So
with interviews too, that's I feel like, well, I don't know if everyone's familiar, but for us, how the interview process goes, and I think this is generally how it is at most game studios. It's a recruiter screen is the first one, and it's usually around 15 to 30 minutes for a recruiter screen. Some of the things that we're looking for, well, at least me personally, I just want to get to know the candidate a little bit more, kind of see what their journey was going into games. I do ask if they play games. Like,
yes, that's a fun question.
I that's my personal question. Like, it's not something that our managers want us to ask them, but I do it anyway because we're PlayStation. So I'm gonna ask.
It's also a nice icebreaker.
It's a nice icebreaker, and obviously, if you love talking about games, it's super easy. And then also, some other stuff like, why are they looking for the role in particular? If they're someone that I actually sourced or found online and wanted to have a conversation about the job, I'll ask them, why they're looking for a new role, or if they're looking for a role, why do you want to come and work with PlayStation, things like that. And also where, where do they live? Everyone in our studio is mostly working remotely. So we're asked if they're okay with remote. There was actually somebody I spoke with the other day who actually prefers to go into the office.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
It's kind of a rare thing. I don't hear it a lot, but she said she would love to come into the office, or if there was like a hybrid situation. Yeah. So that was a little bit different, but basically the screens are just to, kind of see if candidates, like what the candidate's motivation is, and make sure they're not saying anything too crazy. That's real talk. Like, just making sure they're not saying anything too crazy, and then also, see why they're interested in the role, and also something that in California, and I think there are other states that implemented this too, was pay transparency. So in a lot of our job descriptions, at the very bottom, we'll list a range of how much the job actually pays. So it's either going to be an annual salary or hourly salary range, or pay range. So then we have to, in the screening calls, we got to make sure, if that range is cool, so that the team knows that it's something that we could work with. So, those are some of the things that in our screens that we talk about. Is there anything else that you like to bring up when you're screening candidates? Yeah,
I think I'd like to chat about their portfolio and the pieces that they've worked on. I know you kind of like trained me on that too, but but you do a really good job of that. And I think what I like to do every single time that I have, like, for example, like, a screen where it is for an art role, check out that portfolio. I like to look at it, dive into it, and when I chat with the candidates, they sometimes are very appreciative. They're like, "Oh, did you really look at it?" And I'm like, "Of course." Like, yes, we're gonna look at it. And they're like, "Thank you," because I feel like, I don't know what kind of other experiences they had, but they're like, "I'm so thankful that you looked at my portfolio." A lot of people, they just look at my resume. And I think that's such an important part of what we do, that we get examples, that we do forward that, to the managers. They do see your work. And, just a couple of like call outs that I could give is just, continue to work. If you don't have a lot of art pieces, continue to work on that, add into your portfolio. That's what I always look at. I also, I do ask the same question, is like, do you play games? And that opens like so many doors. They tell me what they're playing. And sometimes they're shy because they're not PlayStation catalog games, but I'm like, no.
It doesn't
I'm like,
matter.
tell me. No, it doesn't matter.
What other games are you playing? It doesn't matter.
Yeah. They're like, I don't know if I could say this, but I'm playing COD. And I'm like, oh yeah.
I know. They'll get all, well, I don't really play a lot of PlayStation games. I play a lot of Switch. It's like, so what?
Yeah. That's okay.
That's dope. No problem.
Yeah, I love it. Or sometimes they're like, oh, I got one was really very interesting. They're like, oh, play board games. And I'm like, oh, what do you play? I still like to know. Like, I'm not going to judge you or anything. I'm like, what do you do? Like, we want to know. And it was like D&D or something like that, right? Or I'm totally not going to judge you for that. But yeah, it was fun. I got that once. Is it okay if I can say this? I'm like, yeah, sure.
People are so funny.
Like, so shy.
Yeah. No, totally. I know. So like, I think that's really cool because we're now working with game artists. We're working with teams that hire for like character artists. You're working with the 3D scan team. I've worked with the environment art team as well, or world art. When I came on to PlayStation, I was fortunate enough to work as a talent sourcer with visual arts, which is primarily, working with artists. So I was super fortunate in that, because when you come on as a sourcer or a coordinator, they will typically spread you around and to have you work on different teams, like, QA or producer or sound or audio or something like that, like wherever you're needed. And I was like, I guess my manager really she really saw like how much I enjoyed working with visual arts. And so I was very fortunate to be able to kind of continue to work with visual arts mostly. Obviously, when it's slow, like right now, it's kind of slow as far as hiring. I'm working with some other teams, like there's a San Mateo team that's hiring for a senior producer. So I'm working with the producer team. I'm working to help like source producers. And like I said before, I've worked with QA. I've worked, I've sourced for music and sound design, which was different. And all of those teams, they run their ship differently.
They do.
Yeah. It's different as far as like, what they want to see in their resume and their reels or portfolios. It's all different. So, and now like, I love that, we both get to have these conversations about candidates and how we could maybe help them in their game art journey. Cause 3D scan is like your baby now. Like you're a recruiting coordinator who now has experience working a rec from source to hired pretty much. Like you're going through the entire pipeline process. And I feel like, a lot of those opportunities aren't really available at other studios. If you're a coordinator, you're mostly just going to be scheduling. So I think you being in this position now, like what and what you've learned is like super valuable. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm super thankful. The mentor that I have has allowed me for these opportunities, because for a lot of years, I've been a coordinator for 7 years, and it's been really hard to make that jump into the recruiting space, specifically like working the recs, screening these candidates, getting to know them, talking to hiring managers. Not everybody wants that. I want to do the disclaimer. Not every coordinator wants to be a recruiter or a sourcer, right? It's what you want. I have team members that are totally okay with staying as a coordinator, working projects on the side. And, some of the other projects that we work on are, for example, myself, I like diversity and inclusion. I'm very big into that. I want to bring diverse, candidates. Specifically, my goal would probably be like people of color and women. We want them in gaming, right? We want more. And so I raised my hand and I've said this is like something that I wanted to, work on, and even hire veterans. That's another thing that I'm very big on, just because my spouse is military. And we'll get into that. But basically, so one of the projects that I work on is, shipping out or booths or tablecloths or things that are going to be basically presented are at expos or like at GDC or when we do Women in Impact or those type of diversity events like Grace Hopper or those things, right? So I try to help out with that. I ship it. Oh, and then also if like the team needs me to, jump into calls where we're trying to make those connection with vendors. So that was another project that I got, pull into. And some of these coordinators, they're also kind of doing these type of work. So just, very, very open. And that's how I kind of got, to be able to work on these recs and be able to meet with these hiring managers is, hey, I would like to do this. Can you show me? Because I felt like no one really had the time, or it was kind of like, here, we hand you this, but you kind of have to like run with it. But I'm like, I don't know if I'm doing this for right or wrong.
Yeah, scary.
It's scary. It is scary. I still come to you, like our kind of like our manager for this team. And, at the end of the day, it's I'm very thankful for the opportunity, specifically because PlayStation is such a big organization that I would say like little me, they could like hire anybody, but they're at least allowing me and I get to, work these recs and talk to these candidates because they're so thankful. Just for them to hop on a 15-minute call to talk to us. It's just, to them, it's like, it makes their whole entire career, and especially the junior ones.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's totally true. And I do very much enjoy that. Just, being able to speak to candidates and help in any way that I can, just from the stuff that we've learned so far. And I think, working with these art teams, we'd mentioned, we're kind of jumping around a little bit, but I'm just thinking about, portfolio stuff. I've had, I remember I was just thinking about this dude who asked me, how much do you actually look at the portfolios? Just like what you said earlier.
Yeah.
And it's like, I look at the portfolios. He's like, how much time do you think you spend reviewing a portfolio? And I was like, well, to be honest, it could be anywhere from 5 to 10 seconds that I know immediately looking at someone's portfolio on ArtStation or Behance or their personal website, if it's going to be a fit for the teams that I'm sourcing for, right? So that's like, and then when I said 5 to 10 seconds, homeboy was like, oh wow, really? And I was like, yeah, but it's because I know right away from the almost 2 years I've been here what the teams want as far as style goes.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's something that I've picked up fairly quickly. And I mean, I could also attribute it to like being a gamer. Obviously it helps to play mostly PlayStation games all my life. Like obviously the style is like, mostly realistic style. Yes. And a lot of our games that we put out are realistic. And so like the teams that we're working with right now, that's what they're looking for. There are some studios, some PlayStation studios like Valkyrie who, release Guns Up. It's super stylized. Like that's something that's different. So maybe if it's a fit for, because I've worked with Valkyrie before, but it was for producer role. But they even some of the art roles I've heard that they I've actually helped them with UI artists too. I think I always forget. But they were like, they'll take somebody who has like who works stylized and realistic. So that's like an exception. It's not always going to be someone. It's not going to always be like, they're looking for someone who has a realistic portfolio.
That's true.
Yeah. And then the other question I get to is like, do you look at the resume? Oh no. Do you read the cover letters, Gabby? Like real talk?
I feel okay. Yes, at certain times, like I glanced at it. If I
be 100.
Well, yeah.
And we're talking specifically about 3D scan because it's art related.
Yes, I do sometimes read them, but not all the time. A lot of the folks.
So nice.
A lot of the folks come from visual effects, so I like to see what they've done, and they're so proud of it, and I really do appreciate that. Because I just like to see what they've worked on. But they did tell me their whole entire like career.
In the cover letter.
Like, yeah, and you're like, whoa, this is a lot. This is a lot. Yeah, but no, not all the time. I have to admit, I'm definitely more like at the resume and the portfolio. Oh,
yeah,
you're gonna call me out on it? No.
No, I know. I'm trying to keep up with the. I'm just in the conversation. Yeah, I don't read. I told people I don't read cover letters. Now, again, this is a disclaimer because this is what we do.
But I've heard.
Yeah.
At like Rockstar is like they do read it. Like if
really?
like I've seen job descriptions, and I mean, I hope I'm not saying this wrong, and I want to put my foot in my mouth, but maybe I should have asked my old friend that works there. But
is
yes,
for our team.
No, so I was a couple of. I think it's when I was still kind of like I was in my old place, and I was like still wanted to get into like the gaming industry. I always wanted to, right after like I became more of a gamer. But I saw a job description for Rockstar, and it literally said on there like it was like an HR coordinator, right? It wasn't even like kind of what I do. It was more like HR. But they were like, we want you to let us know in a cover letter why you will be a good fit for Rockstar. So. Yes, again, the disclaimer is there. Where
that's like a custom question, more like.
Correct. Like, there's certain studios that do, require you to write this, and as well as like there's other studios out there that will ask you if you play their games.
Yeah, that's true. That I have heard that too. Yeah, that's totally true. Yeah, so it's gonna vary. So for us, we're not really tripping on cover letters. So, you those of you out there too, you could take it with a grain of salt. You could write a cover letter, is totally fine. Have that shit ready to go if it's required. Oh. But for us, I'm not reading it. I mean, I barely read the resumes, bro. I don't. I really, when we were, because we've had this conversation, when you were helping just review applications and portfolios and stuff like before, I'm like, don't worry about the resume. Just look at the portfolios first. And then if you have, if you were wondering about their experience and want to jump in a little bit more, then jump to their resume, because if you look at their resume first but their portfolio it's not a fit, and right away, that's a wrap. Correct. Right? So
that is true.
That's just what we do, and that's being straight up because that's just been the experience. When I first started, I would look at everything.
You're learning. Everything. No, I still do because I'm still really like fairly, I want to say, young in my recruiting career. I call myself like a baby recruiter as someone in our team, baby manager. Yeah. But to me, it's like I'm learning, so I like to see like if they've shipped out games, if like how long, they've been out of the studio or even in an indie studio. Like I want to know. It's just because I want to learn and I'm curious about their background.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
But the other thing that we need to talk about, it's do not steal art.
Oh, yeah. That's a tough one.
That's a
Yeah, I
tough
think
one.
that's one where that's the one that we're bringing up because in the what was it this past month we've seen a couple
Two,
profiles.
yeah,
Um,
one or two, yeah, where
s-
people steal art and it's no fun.
I'm gonna put that up.
Yeah, don't steal
S-
art.
Now, something like okay, so I thought about this too. Obviously, don't add other people's work in your portfolios and try to pass it off as your shit. Like,
Yeah.
but then the profiles that we saw, I kind of believe that they're either bots or
Yeah.
someone like created multiple profiles to like do some kind of scamming stuff. Like, because they had like a
Yes.
Behance, they had an ArtStation.
Yes, it was so like
It was pretty
legit.
elaborate. Yeah, it's pretty elaborate. And then there was a LinkedIn too. And so the first thing we think is, and then there's like a picture of this person, and we're thinking, this person is not for real. Like, this is not, you know what I'm saying? They just copy and pasted all the keywords that will stand out, right? For us
Yes.
recruiters to see
Like-
and be like, oh, this person has all these skills, but it's really, you could, when you look a little bit further, you could tell that it's generated text, and the art is not theirs because there's all that person's art pieces were they were all like different styles. Some was 2D, some were 3D, some were realistic, some were stylized. It was just there were some environment pieces, some were some characters, and I was like, this is just all over the place. And something that I think if I would have seen that like in my first 2-3 months, I would have been like, damn, let's hire this person.
No, I knew something was up. I was like,
Yeah, no,
I don't know. That one
good, 'cause
piece,
you brought that one to
obviously,
me.
I thought it was AI, and you're like, no, someone did this, but it's not this person. And so again, it's like me as like not super experienced, but as I like days go by, I'm like able to kind of tell something's funky. And then you pointed it out, like this person added everything between like March 31st to April 7th or something like that, right? And it was like back to back to back. So it's like, okay, it's a red flag. So that is kind of like in a nutshell. Like we're like, well,
but
yeah, no.
You're right. I'm sure it's out there though. I'm sure there are actual people who are, they're passing their stuff off as theirs. Like,
yeah,
especially now with, with AI art, like that's on everyone's mind, especially artists. They're really concerned about that. And to be 100, I fell for it today on my IG channel, on the More Diverse Games IG channel. I started following someone who I thought was creating this art, and then I read further. He just puts in prompts, AI prompts, and he's like, he posts all the characters. They're like, they're like mostly black characters, right? So they look really nice, right? These are all 2D or 3D art. He's got a bunch of them on his IG, and I'm like, oh, this is dope. And then I start to read further in his bio, and then I click his link, and he's like, he created like these guides for Mid-Journey prompts so that you could get realistic characters. So he's like, he's making money off that shit, and you're not really creating it. So that's
you got catfished.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of fell for that shit. Yeah, I fell for it.
It's okay. I've had it.
Yeah.
But also think not just stealing the art too, but I also thought about this. Be aware of like scams out there, especially in LinkedIn with recruiters. Do not, if you're an artist, do not fall for like sending money, or basically like, I think that's a big one, right? They've asked for money to kind of like...
Oh, that's right, to start the interview process?
Yes, to start the interview process. Or we will never ask that. We will never ask for money. We will never, ask you for any, sensitive information. We have laws that we have to abide. And there's certain ways that we have to ask questions, right? We can simply ask you like how much you make. That is like no. But I also would like to call that out because I feel like that's beginning to be a bigger issue these days. Specifically, it has happened to a lot of our team members, and I feel like it's going to happen to us one day.
Well, we're not that big enough yet because, you know, our manager, I guess her profile was duplicated and they were acting as her. And then, you know, saying they'll come work for PlayStation and then trying to scam them out of money and stuff like that. So yeah, watch out for stuff like that. What I like to tell people is that I would recommend applying directly to the studio website. It's easier because everything is on LinkedIn, and you want to just apply because they don't ask a ton of questions. And it just seems more seamless. Everything is in front of you. But I would recommend just viewing the application or the job description on LinkedIn. And then if you're more interested in the job, go to the actual company website or studio website and check if the job is listed on the website, and then apply from there.
Yes, that's a really good shout out too.
Yeah,
and they'll give them money.
Do not.
We will never
give
ask you for money. Do not give money.
Yeah, because when I was applying for jobs before I came to PlayStation, was I would do that too. I was on LinkedIn just like applying like left to right, boom, just, you know, it was like autofill. And you know, if you don't look carefully enough at, you know, the information or where it's coming from, like who knows who you're really, you know, sending your information to. So I don't know. Just gotta watch out for that stuff. But yeah, that's a good call out. Yeah, watch out for scammers for sure. Okay, so resumes.
Yes.
What's your take on this? Is just anything. It could be like, you know, what's a no-no or what's a no-no for resumes?
To me, I don't know. This is personal. Again, it's my own thought, but it's just like those people that go, like interest, or I like to travel, I like to do this. I honestly on
the resume.
Yeah. There's certain people that if it's related to what you're doing or to the position that you're applying, I think it's great. But I've gotten like really weird ones, and I'm just like, no one really.
What if someone said they were a Guinness World Record holder for, you know, most ping pong balls caught in their mouth?
I mean, that's cool. Like, but also like
totally making that up.
No. I had actually, there was one that I saw. The guy worked on a video, and it was like a cover band, and they did like Depeche Mode, and I love Depeche Mode. And I asked him, and there was like a San Diego based band, and so that's fine. But it's just like I've seen like, oh my God, I can't think of an example, but I'm just like, wow, you wrote that on there? You wrote that on there? Wow, that's brave of you. That's a good one. I mean, just definitely your skills. You wanna kind of what you know what we talked about, like 3 to 4, max of 5, like little bullet points for each position. Definitely you want your name, you can have your legal name, and just what I kind of do is, like, since I go by Gabby, I put in parentheses your email, your LinkedIn, like on top, like that is just a for sure, or like on the side on your main one. You want to know, you want a way for recruiters to contact you, or at least reach out, right? Sometimes I think location is okay. It's not a big, but if it's listed on your like LinkedIn, it's good. I think for me, the biggest one for that is it just really depends on like I hate saying this, but what script I'm gonna kind of tell you because of benefits, right? I want to know if you're like in the US side or if you're in the Canadian side or so, right? Because I'm like, I have to kind of go back. I'm like, oh, you're in Canada. 1 second. So I have to tell them, right? If I don't know, like, at the top of my head. But yeah, those are some really like good call outs, I think. But yeah, like the interest one is really funny. I'm interested in this.
Contact info at the top for sure. And making sure it's visible, the first thing you can see. And adding your location is fine. You don't, to me personally, you do not have to include your home address.
No.
but you could just put like the city, and that's totally fine.
Oh, another one.
Yeah.
Pictures. Your headshot.
Yes or no?
No, I don't think so. We're not in Europe. I think in Europe it's like
Is it required?
it's like I don't know if it's required. I've seen like most of the candidates that I've seen from Europe have it. But again, this is a different industry. This is not gaming. But we don't really require that. Like,
no.
And then of course, going back to like the location, LinkedIn, your portfolio. If you're an artist, you want to make sure you have your portfolio. And make sure it does work. Sometimes we have firewalls and we cannot access it. There's been a couple of honestly portfolios that I have been trying to view, but I can't because they have a firewall or they just don't work.
Yeah,
like it's wrong. True. And some recruiters will reach out to you like, hey, we got your resume. We can't view your portfolio. When you have like 18,
if I can't view it.
Yeah, if you have 18 recs, you're not going to do that.
You're not going to spend the time trying to find it. Now, I mean, some of you are actually really nice, and you're like, "Hey, Zach, can you view this person's resume?" And if I can't view it on the work computer, I'll use my personal and see if it'll work there. But yeah, that's totally true. And then, of course, when your resumes have to be in PDF format for you to be able to link your portfolio. So,
correct.
Yeah, when you link it, make sure that link actually works. You know, you should, to be honest with you, you guys gotta, you gotta make sure that, you check your stuff every now and then, maybe like every couple of weeks or like once a month, make sure all the links work. And everything like that. So yeah, that's a good one. Portfolio
also, I can think of another one. Make sure the formatting is correct. You don't want like different fonts for every single like position or so. I cannot tell you how many times in our team we've been reviewing resumes and we're like, oh wow, this font looks funky, like it's big or so. So again, going back to kind of like the PDF, like make sure it doesn't like convert it into like a funky format, because it's going to look a little weird. Or like I've seen also like you have your first page and it's blank, and then it goes to the second page, and that's where the first page of the resume.
Yeah,
have you seen those?
Yeah, I have seen that. That is interesting. Yeah, that could be easily. I could see how that could happen if you're quickly creating your resume in Microsoft Word, and you have like extra spaces at the bottom. It just makes another page. So yeah, being cognizant of those little things. These are all little things too, and that's not even everything as far as on the recruiter side reviewing resumes. But these little things help us, not just help us get through the process, but it helps us identify what we need from your resume quickly.
Quickly,
that's one of the important things. Formatting for me is super important. How everything is organized. It has to be one page for sure. Name and contact information somewhere where I could see visibly. I like that. And I like to see, the right side of like where all the text is. I like it to be lined up and not ragged text or paragraphs. So I want everything to look kind of clean. And I hate Times New Roman. Oh yeah. That's a personal preference. I hate Times New Roman. I'm like, bro, this is not the 1980s and 70s. This is not Mad Men days, man. Use sans serif fonts. The main thing is that we need to see it quickly.
Yes, and don't be afraid to give it to the coordinator either. They'll be more than happy to update it in the applicant tracking system. We will love to do that, and I've done it for plenty of our candidates. So they're like, hey, Gabby, I have an updated resume. Can you add it? I'm like, sure. And I even forward it to the hiring manager because, that's our job, essentially. It's just making sure there's that seamless process, right? And we want to make you happy, and we want to make the hiring team happy and help as much as possible. So,
Yeah. And we're saying this a lot too. There's because it's solely true. We do want to make this experience for you guys, like, applying and going through the interview process. We want it to be as seamless as possible. We want you to have a really good experience across the board. But there are so many people that I've talked to who don't experience that. They're
No,
like, they fucking hate recruiters. They're like, I had the worst experience with a
they
recruiter.
do.
We really want to make sure that you guys are, because it's hard. Like
It's
it's
hard.
really tough now to
Oh yeah,
find a job. So, we could totally empathize with everyone who's struggling to find jobs and stuff after layoffs, especially. So we take that into consideration, and we want to make the experience good for you guys.
of course. And I think, at least for me, it's like if I'm going to give you an update, I will tell you, hey, I don't have one just yet. Give me a little bit more, or at least keeping them like informed of what the process is. And I really feel, because I've been in both sides, right? We've been a candidate waiting for feedback, or we have also been the recruiter waiting to get feedback from the managers.
Yes.
So that's really, it's one of those things where it can get really frustrating, and we understand. So, but just for me, like going back to my candidates and saying, hey, so and so, I still need a little bit of time. Wasn't able to connect with this hiring manager this week. Can I have until next week? And I think candidates appreciate that. However, there are recruiters out there that just, they ghost us. And I've done it, and I've applied to other studios where they completely ghosted me.
Yeah.
And it sucks.
It does suck. I hate that.
What are your takes on thank you notes? What do you think?
Oh, I like thank you
after an interview.
Even if it's not a thank you for me, I still pass the message off to the hiring team.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's a forwarded email to the hiring team or on Slack or Teams, I'll be like, hey, this person really enjoyed, conversation with you. Just wanted to let you know, and that's it.
Yeah.
So I think it's okay.
But it's not obligated. I always tell my candidates it's not an obligation. So if you want to, and then don't feel obligated to. It's just a nice have, right? It's kind of putting your best foot forward. But I feel like I've saw that trend on like LinkedIn when they're like, oh, you must do it, right? It's just a nice. You don't have to. You
definitely don't have to.
Don't add that extra stress on yourself. To me, like, I don't know. That's what I think.
No, I think, I think that's fine. Thank you notes are cool. The one thing that I don't particularly enjoy is a long intro message before you've connected. So if someone's reaching out, well, no, actually it's after. So if someone reach out and wants to make a connection and adds a little note, and it's like really short, I'm like, cool. Like, hi, my name is blah, blah, blah. Yeah. I saw that this job is open. Do you have any helpful tips for me or something like that? Like, I think that's really cool. And but then when people don't add a note, and then I end up connecting with them, and then they send a message that's like all about their life and how much they how much they love PlayStation, and I don't particularly like that. I won't respond right away.
Yes.
So do you have any tips on folks trying to connect with you on LinkedIn?
Yeah, I think, well, for me, my big pet peeve on that one is they add me and then they're like, hey, I just applied to let's say software engineer. software engineer. Let's think about this, okay? And I would love a referral. So to me, there are two things right there. For me to give you a referral, I am a recruiter and I am a coordinator, but again, we work in recruiting. I can give you the referral, but I don't personally know your ethic. I don't know. I've never worked with you. I don't even know, I've never spoken to you. So think about this, before you ask a person. Second is, our recruiting team is huge now, because before it wasn't.
Yeah.
So Zach and I, we work on the art side. We work on the studio side. We have a corporate team. We also have one that works in engineering. So we don't touch those recs. We don't touch those positions. So for us to refer you to a software engineer role, and again, it's miseducation. We're not shutting it out that we're like, oh, we don't work on, we don't work on software. We work on the art side. But again, without these podcasts or us talking about it, on our LinkedIn and posting it, we no one's gonna know, right? So I think a much better approach would be like, hi Gabby, I recently applied for this position. Is there any information that that you could give me about the role, which I would love to connect with you, or if you could refer me to the recruiter. I think that's a much better,
that's a good way
like,
to go about
it's a good way.
Seems less lazy.
Yes, but again, like, it's one of those things that I'm just like, you're coming at me and I don't have an answer for you because I don't work with those teams. So I've seen a lot of tips and tricks on that as well in LinkedIn, where they're like, if you reach out to a recruiter, just know that our org is really big and we have recruiters and specific coordinators and sourcers that work on those specific roles. We might not work on that. We don't have any insight. And honestly, I can't tell you right now. Like, I wouldn't know anything about the engineering side.
Yeah, I don't even front. Like, I'm the same way. Yeah, I don't front. But so, yeah, that's really good. Yeah.
And yeah, the referral side, it can be a little risky, right? Unless, like, for me, my personal view is, if I've worked with you in the past and I know your work ethic, I will be more than happy to provide that referral, or at least shoot an email out to the recruiter and say, hey, I talked to, I worked with John Smith in this company, I would, think he will be a good match for this specific role. And I've done that. Have done that in the past, and specifically in our team. And, I get people that hit me up recently. They're like, oh, I saw that you work in a PlayStation. I've been a gamer all my life. Can you refer me to, I would love to work with you again. So again, think about that. And we don't ask, certain teams do ask for a prior gaming, experience. Some teams do not. But again, it's like, think about those type of, messages, I think.
No, that's great. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. I do get a ton of people asking for referrals.
How do I network? I'm just kind of shy. I'm like, well, just maybe do it, as like, hi, my name is Gabby. I'm an upcoming artist, would love to learn more about your background. And I always tell them, like, if you have somebody that you potentially you want that position, go to the LinkedIn, do their do your homework, like, study what they've, the type of positions that they've done. I kind of did that with, a few people that I met in, my time, different other places. But at the same time, it's like those connections, you never know. The gaming industry is really, really small. I'm starting to learn that it's very small, and someone knows someone. And at the end of the day, it's like, even like people that I worked in tech have ended up in gaming. So you never know.
Networking is super important.
Yes.
So
yes, and even if other folks are other studios, like, do not be afraid to, to send them like a, hey, I'm, even if you're working with us, like at PlayStation, like even if you see somebody that's in Activision or Blizzard or so, I still like send them like a LinkedIn connection, because you never know, right? Yeah. Never know if you're gonna, if you have questions, or even if a candidate comes through or something, right? If you're curious, I always try to connect with people in the industry. It's always nice to have as well. I think the other thing that I was going to bring out is do networking events. Like if you see there's like a gaming networking event, or kind of like the one we do or I've done for WonderCon or Comic-Con, it's like, if that opportunity is there for you, some of these people that go to this event are like industry veterans. Like they worked in this industry for 20 plus years,
and the insight managers.
Yeah, or hiring managers, or people that are actually working on the games, like artists, and getting to know, what they do on a day-to-day basis. It's amazing, because you're going to have an insight of what you're going to be potentially doing future. Like I always like to ask them, like, so how does your day go? What is your day-to-day at like High Moon? Or I asked someone at Riot, I'm like, hi, how do you like working there? And they told me. So conferences, yes.
Yeah, no,
which
that's
is
good.
yeah.
Because there, some of those conferences too, like at Comic Con or WonderCon, or especially at GDC, there will sometimes be portfolio reviews. So hiring managers
Yes.
or art leads will come out and have portfolio review sessions, and so going to those conferences, making those connections are super important. And it's hard. I mean, I'm an introvert too. Like
Yeah.
a couple 2-3 years ago, you would never see me doing stuff like this on camera too, especially. Bruh.
I mean, I'm nervous right now, but I have to. We got to do it, right?
I know we got to do it. I got started More Diverse Games like 2, almost 3 years ago, and every piece of content I wanted to make sure that my face was not anywhere, and I was like super hesitant to even do like my voice, like in some of my gameplay and stuff like that. So if you're an introvert and you just it's hard, or you're uncomfortable, or you're fearful of making those connections, just
practice.
do it. Just practice and try to just start small.
2 things.
What's that?
In your mirror. Just foreplay in the mirror. That's what I would do. And I was like doing my hair today. Yeah, I was like practicing. I was like straightening my hair, and I was like kind of like talking out loud. That's a good one. When you're driving too. I mean, if you drive, not everybody, because some people like live in major cities and they have very good public transportation. You're gonna look like a crazy person, like on the train. But in the car, I kind of like talk to myself, like I practice, like if I have a big presentation. Again, it's at your discretion, at your own pace, like where I just think practice.
Yeah, practice. Totally. Yeah, no, I agree. I think if it's in the mirror, or what I used to do is I used to read affirmations in my using the photo booth on the Mac.
Oh, Mac? Yeah.
Yeah. So using photo booth, and just like it's a mirror, just looking in there and just reading affirmations. Just being comfortable with looking at my mug. I don't like my face being out there, but just being because I'm not even a camera person. I don't even like taking photos. Like that's how I am. So to do this was like big.
I love that.
But it's facts, bro. It's facts.
No, I know.
But starting small, just like you said, just practicing just little things in front of the mirror, or in front of a computer or a camera. You don't have to be recording like that. It could lead up to you being more comfortable with having those conversations with people.
And if you're in school, the one that I can think of is public speaking classes. So some colleges or universities, even as a part of your curriculum, they require you to take some type of communications class or public. Maybe if you're feeling, intrigued, or you're feeling brave enough, like do one and see if you like it. I know for like my husband, he took one and it really helped him, he said, especially where the type of work that he does.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
so
good one too.
That's another call out too.
Yeah, so participating in game jams, obviously you're working in like a small team, and you have like a you have a deadline, and you have to present at the end the game that you created. So, and what your role was, and like some of the responsibilities some of the tasks you had for the actual game. So game jams is cool too. I think that's
actually a good one.
Yeah,
I didn't think about that one. I've seen candidates, let's go back to like the interview process, when they ask who they're meeting with, and you provide them the information or like their names, and they ask for the title. So keep in mind that some companies or some studios, we're not allowed to provide that. But also think about this, like it makes you more proactive to actually go and search for that person in LinkedIn. A lot of people don't have the portfolio or have a page, but at the same time, I'm pretty sure at least like 2 or 3 of those team members will have it, and do your own research on them and see where they worked, how long they've been working at that company. It just makes you look more proactive than us trying to provide you with that information, because sometimes I've seen it, and the recruiter's like, oh, I've already given this information. I don't need to give them to them twice. So it's just attention to detail, right? That's one of the things that, research interviewers.
Just trying to find the right word.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Totally.
Research the
totally
team.
do your research.
Not always going to happen, but think about also the job description when you apply for a position. Especially, I know right now a lot of folks are just applying to where, but I would recommend keeping a copy of the job description because sometimes the position comes down and you won't be able to go back to see, if you want to do like your homework before or to a couple of days before the interview, that job description might not be there.
That's
unless you ask the recruiter or the coordinator for it. We're going to have to dig it, from our applicant tracking system or it may be different.
Yeah, that's true.
So, there's certain, because sometimes it could be like a senior to a regular, kind of what we work on, right, to a mid,
yeah.
And, the requirements could be different.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. That's a really good one. And with that too, when you guys are applying, and we say this a lot too, make sure you're applying to a role that fits, especially in the game art side, make sure you're applying to a role that fits like the style of, your portfolio. I was thinking, what if that person doesn't know what they want to do? Do they want to do stylized or realistic? Maybe they're good at both. And they're trying to figure out if that's what they want to do, like if they want to go one way or the other. So I think it's okay. I don't want to discourage people to not apply, but I just want people to be mindful of, on our side, like what we see and like what's going to be a fit or not for the teams that we're on. So I could understand it, but just think about like, if you're doing like something like 2D art, like just straight up like comic book stuff.
Oh yeah.
Please don't apply. Like
no.
that's what I mean. Like that's not a fit.
Yes, and also just kind of look at what we, the type of games that we put out, and also the type of art, right? I think that it's hard to tell people that, but it's like it just we don't have any projects. We don't have any projects that would fit into that. Like, okay, what type of games do you play? And then they tell me like these games, and I'm like, okay, there must be a little bit more indie, because I've never heard of them, right? And so I tell them, I'm like, have you checked out their website? Have you checked out their careers page? Do you know what type of art or what type of positions they're looking for? Yeah. Like, no, I didn't think about that. And I said, well, that's actually a really good way for you to like figure, once you graduate and you figure out where, what type of art you want to go into, take out these like positions that they have on their website, look at the job description, see what type of skills you need. Because some of the skills you might be able to pick up on college or on the side, kind of like what Philippe said he kind of did. He's like, he did like, he went to his, I think it was like a library or like a computer center, and he started, to learn more on Mudbox, right? So at the school, right? So I think that's a great call out too. It's just like, you never know. Again, it's education, right? They're like, oh, I didn't think about that. I'm like, yeah, take a look at the job descriptions right now, what they have, because you never know when you get out of college, you might have those skills and you might have a chance because you're building those skills as you're in college, as you're working towards that goal.
That's a good one. Yeah, it'll give you like a future insight into what what teams are looking for, especially when you're learning different skills and stuff. But yeah, the stuff that I feel like what you do on the side, what you learn on the side, whether it's through Udemy or Learn Squared or Masterclass, you're gonna learn a lot more than what you would have learned at school. Like I feel like, obviously, education is super important and stuff, but and we have YouTube, so you could learn so much from like all the stuff you do on the side. So yeah, if you know what a team is looking for skill wise, like start picking up those new skills, because it's going to be important later when you do start applying.
Even like indies, I feel like indie studios, you can learn a lot because the amount of like team members are smaller, right? The budget is a little bit smaller, so you probably are going to be, excuse my language, busting your ass in there, and but you gain those skills, and that builds your resume up, and also you're able to learn different tools or different tools,
learning
or
about the game, the pipeline process.
The pipeline, exactly. Pipeline process.
Yeah, no, that's totally, yeah. Start small. I think Richard Chai said that in the last conversation that we had. He said, definitely start small if you can. It's okay to start small. The time is going to go by so fast. If you go to a small studio, and even if you're not there for a long time, and you hop to another studio that's a little bit bigger, you could gradually make your way up, and the skills that you're going to learn are just going to be as valuable as if you were started at a AAA studio. But it's hard to get into a AAA as a junior. Yes, it is. So that's why I always tell I tell the juniors, I'm like, well, have you thought about an indie, a smaller studio? I don't call it indies. I said a smaller studio. So they just, it's not like, oh, I'm not good enough for AAA. No, you just have to build your way up. You do. Yeah. Because you're really setting yourself up for success. You are. And I think you're young and you're in your career. We've all been there, and the end goal, right? Again, even for my career, I don't think I will be here if I had like 1 or 2 years of like coordinating. I think all of those years that I busted my butt working in tech has built me up to this. And so I'm very, very thankful. So even for me. Even for me. No, this is so fun. I love it. I've never done this in my life, so this is the first time. I hope it's not the last. It's really fun, and thank you again. I mean, I know I'm early in my career, but anything that I could do to help, those folks out there. I mean, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm starting, to get a little bit more like comfortable talking to candidates. So thank you. I appreciate it so much. You're very welcome. And thank you again for hopping on. The one thing that I think about that motivates me all the time is just, can this be helpful for someone who wants to learn more about the gaming industry? Anything to help. And I think, I could get past, the camera and all that stuff if I have that mindset. And so that's what I really hope that, this content does, I think you're doing a wonderful job, and thank you. Again, like I said, if I would have known this wasn't actually like a career path, like art, in gaming, not that I'm really good at art, but again, like, I'm not great at art either. No, but like being, and it's not just that. I mean, there's so many roles within the studio that you could do, and just having that, education and letting people know, like, okay, this person does this, or we don't have to be an artist to work in the studio. If someone would have told me that in high school, I think my career path would have been a little bit different. That's so true. Yeah, and that's the main purpose of all this. And then at the end of the day, I'm very proud. Like I mentioned in the beginning of the call, I'm Costa Rican, so I'm daughter of an immigrant. I was an immigrant myself, but we recently I got my first game credit, and so I screenshot that, and that screenshot to my MLB The Show 23. Yeah. I took a picture yesterday at Target, and I was like, did you? Yes. But just sending that screenshot of my name in the credits to my family in Costa Rica was just like such a bizarre experience, and telling them, I'm like, okay, do you guys know, like in the movies at the end when you stay back, especially Marvel, there's like post credits, and she's like, yeah, okay. I'm like, do you have that in games? You know that, right? It's like, yeah, we know. And I was like, okay, here's your cousin in one of them. And they were like, cool. Yeah, they reposted and they reshared. I don't want to give up. I love what I do. I'm over the moon, even if it's for, just a short amount of time more. I feel like I accomplished something that I never thought in my wildest dreams that I was going to be able to do. Never thought that a little girl playing in
basically a very humble home in her PlayStation 1 was ever going to be in the credits of a game for PlayStation 5.
It's dope.
Game, right? It's so dope and it's so crazy, and I'm very thankful and very humble for the opportunity. I always say that to everybody that I work. I like my team members are amazing. We're such a close-knit group, and we like any success that we one of us have achieved, we're just right there like rallying them up and like celebrating and being their cheerleader. And I do that with you. I do that with my other coordinator, coworkers. It's just the little things, right? So that's when people ask me like, what do you love to work there? I'm like, there's no words. After coming from a very different environment, coming here was just like a fresh breath air. I loved it.
Especially being a gamer too. But I think the dopest thing for you too is that, and I hope you realize this, is that, there's only so much more that you could do. I think, I don't know if it's hard to convince yourself that, or if I have to convince you, but I feel like, there's so much more that's possible based on all the hard work and the experience you've gained. Like, there's a lot more to this shit. Like, you're gonna do some great shit,
I know. Sometimes I'm impatient. I'm just like, I'm so frustrated, or like it's like the candidate doesn't accept or so. But I have to remember, it's like a journey. Like, we're also in the people. It's like I want to call it a people business. Like, I hate saying that, but we're human. We're we have making a jump to another position, or specifically a big studio like PlayStation. It's a big decision. Not everybody, especially in the market these days. So sometimes I get like discouraged and like, they didn't accept, or they didn't like answer my email or so. I have to remember, it's like, okay, think about this. This is a life-changing event.
Yeah, you do. You have to stop and remember, and think like, this is where I'm at now, and I never thought I would be here too. I'm the same way.
Yeah.
So I try not to get caught up in that madness too. But I love it. Thank you so much again, Gabby. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, and you're doing awesome, and I really do appreciate it, and I love working with you. I hope that we get to work with so many more years.
I know, me too. It is fun. I fucking love it. All right, Gabby.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I can't wait to see the end product.
Yeah, I'll be editing tonight. So and I'll try to get it posted for this next week.
Okay. Thanks, Zach.